All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, look, in this one, I really wanted to take a look at a couple different head coaching options for the New York Jets, right? And really looking at these coaches and then linking them or pairing them or even ranking them into different categories, right? Back of the yearbook style, like most intriguing, overrated, underrated, stuff like that. So I'm gonna leave the list blank down below in either the description box or the comments, so you can make your list as well. And I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. Check out your list. So I think the first category we should really dive into, or to really kick this video off with, is safe, right? Who's going to be the safe bet moving forward? Who's going to be a guy that Jets fans will feel comfortable with? Who's going to be a guy that can right the ship, create a culture, and get a couple wins along the way? I think the perfect guy is Eric Bieniemy, current offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I get it. It's cliche, especially because it's the first one of the video. I completely understand that. But when you look at Eric Bieniemy, when you look at Coach Eric B, you have to ask yourself, what are you getting? Who is this guy? He's a guy who's passionate, a hardworking individual who holds players accountable. You listen to interviews like Patrick Mahomes talking, raving about Eric Bieniemy. You listen to Andy Reid talk about Bieniemy's work ethic, what he brings, what he offers to this Chiefs organization. It's absolutely incredible, right? Not only just of the personal traits that this guy has, but look at where he is. Look at what he's been around. He's been with the Chiefs for 7 years now. He's literally been around the best offense in football. The game today is trending towards offensive football, and the Chiefs are spearheading that movement. He's right there. He's calling plays. He's in the meeting rooms with the best quarterback in the league, with the best offense in the league, with the best offensive-minded head coach in the league, Andy Reid. You can argue Sean Payton, but the majority of fans would say it's Andy Reid. He's been there. Best coach, best offense, best quarterback. He's right there in the thick of it, helping this offense succeed. So I think when you're just looking from a safe standpoint, Eric Bieniemy not only will, be a breath of fresh air to this Jets organization, but he's going to bring so much knowledge. He has such a great resume, so much success with this Chiefs team. So that's the guy who I feel like would just be the overall safe bet. So category number 2 is the opposite of safe, right? It's boom or bust. It's a little risky. It could pay off big time, or it could fall apart in 2 years. I think it's offensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers, Joe Brady. Now, the huge draw with Joe Brady is wherever this guy goes, the offense pops off. We all know what happened at LSU. You look, at the previous year with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously spending time with Sean Payton, being in that successful culture with the New Orleans Saints at such a young age, I feel like helped him. Then obviously, like I said, goes to LSU. Everybody knows the story. Joe Burrow, national championship, undefeated, breaking records all over the place. LSU is a legitimate passing threat, which is something that they just didn't really do before Brady's arrival there. You could even go back and look at Joe Burrow the previous season when Brady was with the Saints. This guy was a completely different QB under Joseph Brady, right? So he goes to Carolina, and this is the team that everybody had going 1-15, 2-14, tanking for Trevor. This Carolina Panthers team is not only just average, but they're kind of in the thick of it. They're competing against really good teams. That game against the Chiefs, it came right down to the wire. Part of that is because of Joe Brady, right? So I get the draw, but there is a little bit of risk involved. The guy's 31 years old, 32 years old, somewhere in the early 30s. How does this guy respond to adversity? How, if the chips are down, if the going gets tough, what's going to happen? If he's now leading the charge in the biggest market of them all, New York City, what's going to happen if things don't go well? What's going to happen if they go on a 3-game losing streak? There's a lot of question marks surrounding Joe Brady, but like I said, it's boom or bust. I actually, speaking from, my personal opinion on Brady, I really like the guy, but there is a little bit of risk involved here. So moving on, category number 3 is underrated, right? Who's a guy right now that's not really getting a lot of mainstream buzz, flying under the radar, but at the same time also legitimate enough to actually be getting an NFL interview, head coaching opportunity this offseason, right? I think it's Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator Don Martindale, right? Now, I love Martindale. I always have. And really, the first thing that pops into my head when I think about Coach Don is consistency. It's all about consistency when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens defense, okay? In a day and age tailor-made for offensive football. I mean, think about it. You can't hit the quarterback. Offensive innovation is at its peak. Defensive pass interference and defensive holding are called excessively. I mean, just off the top of my head, Bills, Seahawks, Packers, Chiefs, Saints, Steelers. Those teams essentially hang 30 points on their opponents each and every week, okay? But when I think of Baltimore, I think of a hard-nosed, aggressive defense that on a consistent basis, week to week, year to year, they are not only just, producing against these high-flying teams, but they're producing at a high level. Baltimore's pretty much a lock for a top 5, top 10 defense each and every year. And I think it's all due to coaching. It's all due to player development. I mean, you see young guys, come into this Ravens locker room on defense and they instantly start producing. Whether they're signing older veteran players, guys like Calais Campbell, guys like Marcus Peters, or they're drafting, up and coming guys like Marlon Humphreys of the world. Baltimore, you're always going to have solid production, right? And they take the football away. It's just such a treat to watch, I get it. I'm an offensive guy. I love watching offensive football, judging quarterbacks, offensive game plans, all that kind of stuff, X's and O's. But it's so refreshing to see a defensive coordinator, again, on a week-to-week basis, producing and combating this high-flying, explosive offensive era that we live in today. So Don Martindale for underrated. Category number 4, overrated, right? And this one, it kills me to say it. Okay, this one kills me to say it. I hated writing this guy's name down because I've met him. I've talked to him. We've talked offensive football before about dual threat quarterbacks. Man, and I like the guy. I really do think he's a good coach. But it's offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, Greg Roman, right? Sticking with Baltimore here, Greg Roman. Now, when I think of Greg Roman, I think of a guy who is a fantastic offensive coordinator. I think he would be a great college head coach, right? I think he would be a guy that could step in a team like, Michigan, and they could start winning some games. I think his specialty is working with dual threat quarterbacks. Think about Tyrod Taylor with Buffalo. Think about Lamar Jackson now. Think about Colin Kaepernick back with San Francisco. This guy has a knack for really looking at what his players are good at and then saying, okay, you know what? What are you bad at? What are you good at? We're just going to take everything that you're bad at and just scrap it. We're not even going to bother running it. And we're going to take what you're good at and we're going to double down. We're going to intensify that and magnify that to really just, crazy proportions, right? Epic proportions. I think Greg Roman is, a perfect coordinator. I think he's a perfect college head coach, but I think when it comes to being an NFL head coach, I'm just not sold, right? And again, I love Roman. I think he's going to be a great coach, whether he remains with Baltimore or ends up, being an OC of another team. But when I look at Greg Roman, I just feel like he's too much of a specialist, kind of like, if you break your hand and the doctor can't fix it or, the surgeon can't fix it, you have to go to like a hand specialist or something like that. I think when you have a dual threat quarterback, when you have a dual threat guy, you need Greg Roman. He's the dual threat specialist. So for overrated, as much as it kills me, I'm going to say offensive coordinator Gregory Roman. Now moving on. Category number 5, who's the fan favorite, right? Who's a guy who I just see his name pop up everywhere I turn. Instagram, Twitter, on YouTube, down below in the comment section, all over the internet. It's offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, Arthur Smith. Now, I get the fascination with this guy, I really do. I mean, obviously, number one, he's developed Ryan Tannehill, but you can also make the argument that Tannehill was just being held back by Adam Gase and Arthur Smith. And Arthur Smith is really just letting him flourish out there, just, saying, hey, you know what, Ryan Tannehill can do X, Y, and Z. He's going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to build this thing off the run. We already have a great O-line who's, they play vicious. They play tenacious at the point of attack. We already have a great running back in Derrick Henry who can take a beating. He can take a lot of handoffs. And we have 2 big body wide receivers, Corey Davis, A.J. Brown. Like, really, Ryan Tannehill has it tailor-made out there. So some people can push back and say, hey, you know what? The Tennessee Titans, when you look at that offense as a depth chart, right, it's just an overall roster. Arthur Smith inherited a great group of guys. Now, obviously, he has to take credit for the development of guys like A.J. Brown and whatnot, the younger guys on the Titans offense, but when I look at Arthur Smith, again, everything is built off the play action. It's getting into third shorts. It's getting into, situations where Ryan Tannehill feels comfortable. He's not one of those quarterbacks where it's, where you see Ryan Tannehill in a lot of 3rd and 13s all the time, right? He's not in these 3rd and long situations where he's having to do 5 to 8 step dropbacks and really deliver a football downfield under duress. It's really getting Tannehill as comfortable as he possibly can be, and then a lot of, again, just working off the play action, bootlegs, a lot of one read things, right? Quick slants to AJ Brown, getting the ball out of Tannehill's hands quickly. So I think, obviously that system can work in teams like New York and Jacksonville and whatnot. But I feel like at the end of the day, the only cause for concern that I have with Arthur Smith is if he does go to a team like the New York Jets or the, Jacksonville Jaguars, a team like that, a really bad football team. Derrick Henry's better than every player. Derrick Henry's literally better than every player on the Jets offense. Taylor Lewan, better than every player on the Jets offense. Ryan Tannehill, way better. Okay, the only 2 guys that the Jets have on offense that are actual guys that you can build around, really 3. You have Mekhi Becton, George Fant, Denzel Mims. Those are the only 3. All right, Jamison Crowder is good, but he's not like a long-term building block that you're going to have for like the next 10 years. Just unrealistic. So I like Arthur Smith a lot. I just have my only red flag, again, is just I think he's in a perfect situation with the Tennessee Titans where everything is just, great offensive line, great running backs, great wide receivers. We have pretty much everything in place. All we have to do is just execute from a week-to-week basis. So next up, this is a kind of a weird category. It's a guy that I would personally like if the Jets went out and hired, but I feel like there might be a lot of pushback from the fans, right? So this is kind of one of those things where it's like a personal preference, right? Who's the guy that you like, but a lot of people might say, might hate the hire. I'm going to say it's Matt Eberflus, defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, of course, I wanted to put Jim Harbaugh here, but at the same time, I feel like Harbaugh has a lot of support. I still feel like Jim has a lot of guys out there in his corner, and I still like Jim Harbaugh. But when I look at Matt Eberflus, I feel like this guy, the Indianapolis Colts defense is fantastic, right? They are fantastic. And really, who are their big names that they've gone out and signed? DeForest Buckner. That's it. They draft everybody, right? Darius Leonard, Rock Ya-Sin. They draft all of these players and they get them to produce. They develop their guys. That's something that the Jets just simply do not do. God, the Jets just rely on free agents, right? Just throwing money at big name free agents. Le'Veon Bell, right? Eric Decker, Trumaine Johnson, right? It's just all guys that have done stuff before, already guys that are proven in this league, and then they just hope that they can really just duplicate their process with the New York Jets. But when I look at the Indianapolis Colts again, they draft young players, they know how to develop them, and they are producing at a high level. The Indianapolis Colts defense is one of the best, one of the best this season, right? Not just in the South, not just in the AFC, but in the entire National Football League. The Colts defense is on fire, right? And they're doing it with all homegrown guys, and I think that's really cool. I've been a big fan of Eberflus for the last couple of years now. I've been saying his name probably on this channel for a while now, and it's probably redundant at this point, but I still like him a lot. Took the 30th ranked defense and in 1 year turned him into the 11th ranked total defense, right? So I'm just overall big fan of him. I think the best is yet to come for him as well, and I want to see him kind of flourish in a I guess a promotion as an NFL head coach. So next up, most intriguing, right? Next category, who's the most intriguing guy out there? And I'm going to say it's Brian Daboll, current offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. When I look at Daboll, it's like I don't really know what he is, Now, obviously, multiple times Super Bowl champion, national champion with the Crimson Tide, right? Spent a lot of time on a lot of different teams, but, his 2 teams that he really, kind of made a name for himself, the New England Patriots and the Alabama Crimson Tide, right? This is a dude that runs kind of a traditional spread system out in Buffalo, and you are seeing absolute incredible production from Josh Allen. Josh Allen should and will be in the MVP discussion at the end of the season if he keeps on this pace. I mean, the guy is throwing for all sorts of yards. Stephon Diggs hasn't missed a beat. John Brown, even though he's kind of dealing with injuries from time to time. Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox. I mean, the whole Buffalo Bills squad is just tremendous, right? Absolutely tremendous. And yeah, they drafted really well. But when I look at what Brian Daboll does from just an X's and O's standpoint, he makes Josh Allen comfortable as hell, right? He says, you know what? I guess the philosophy or the way of thinking with the Buffalo Bills offense is, you know what, Josh Allen has an extremely good arm. He can move around the pocket. He's durable and he's mobile. So we're going to let Allen do all of those things. People say he's inaccurate, so we're not going to give him difficult reads. We're not going to, force him to really fit balls in a tight windows downfield. We're not really going to do that. We're not going to have him turn his back to the defense on play action and have him crawl up in the pocket or climb in the pocket. We're just going to let him get the football out of his hands quickly, give him a bunch of different options, and let him just kind of be the spoon that stirs the pot, or whatever that expression is. Let Josh Allen do his thing. So from that aspect, I really like what Brian Daboll brings to the table, right? He kind of gets out of the way and just says, hey, you know what? Our players are good at this, this, and this. We're going to do those three things. He doesn't try to fit, a square peg into a round hole, by no means at all. But the one interesting thing is, man, does he run the ball? Does Brian Daboll run the football enough? I like Singletary, I like Zach Moss, but I feel like Buffalo, they just throw the ball way too much. Josh Allen is always dropping back, and yeah, he has a lot of touchdowns, and yeah, he has a lot of rushing yards, and yeah, he has a lot of passing yards. But you can say those numbers are inflated because he's dropping back freaking 40 times a game no matter who they play. So does Brian Daboll have a complete understanding of offense, or is the mindset, you know what, we're just going to be a short passing team and we're going to let Allen just do his thing? So interesting guy. I think Brian Daboll will be a great fit down in Jacksonville if they go out and pick Justin Fields, but I digress. And really, the last category here, personal favorite, right? Kind of a wild card. I don't really think it's going to happen. The Jets had an opportunity to make this guy work, to interview this guy a couple years ago. Matt Campbell, head coach at Iowa State. My favorite coach in college football, really my favorite coach in both leagues. I love what he brings to the table. Again, I don't really think it's going to happen because I think either Campbell's going to stay put or eventually grab one of the top tier jobs, maybe again like at a Michigan or something like that. But when I look at Matt Campbell, he brings everything that I want to a franchise or a football program, right? He brings accountability. He brings a sense of brotherhood. He brings a sense of buying into a process. He really just has this whole idea or mindset of laying the foundation, right? Setting the foundation for the young guys. Really building the house brick by brick, right? One step at a time. Not listening to social media, not listening to the mainstream media, not buying into what everybody else is saying about you. Just trust the guys in the locker room, trust the coaches, trust the players playing next to you, and everything will work out. And you see what he's done at Iowa State. He's taking 2-star guys, 3-star guys. And not only, by the way, is his recruiting up in Iowa State in the Big 12. Remember, this is the Midwest out there. You're competing against teams like Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, Baylor, a lot of big name teams, Iowa, Big 10, Wisconsin. There's a lot of football powerhouses in the middle of the country. Matt Campbell's doing it, right? He's not only just getting his recruiting up for that school, right, getting people to buy in, and they're not even a part of the program, but getting people to decommit from certain places to buy into Iowa State. But he's transformed the program. He's transformed Iowa State from just like a bottom feeder in the Big 12 to a team that knocked off Oklahoma, that knocked off TCU a couple years ago when they were like a top 3 ranked team. Crazy stuff, right? So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I know this video I rambled like crazy, but you know what? There's a lot of categories. Wanted to get through them all. Let me know your list down below in the comment section. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and go Jets.